Hello, hello, species value nature system. So we're going to speak about American history. This Connecticut it begins from Connecticut, the cherry tree. This proof that this is a cipher, even if it's not the cipher, it works to teach how George Washington didn't tell a lie. When he said he did not chop down the cherry tree, CT, he did not. He came to Connecticut right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Even with the French generals' help, they could only semi-counter extort roles and natures with the crime method that was entrenched in France, that was entrenched here. It was entrenched in all modern nations before modern nations founded, pounding drums. We're going to put history with the 5 parts of history: ancient history, semi-ancient history that became criminally foreign influenced internation sciences, and that tactically devalued, made self-valued, tactically devalued states and area sciences, and so nation sciences. So ancient, semi-ancient, and then semi-ancient, where modern religions came to counter what was with and as the value of tactically facilitated valued, criminally re-engineered sciences that became as a quality of fact treatment nature method for the identity that inventions work or not in relationship to, so invisible but still discernible. And so with the inventions further positive or negative in relationship to its identity, invisible, so still discernible. And this is where forever nature is a positive, even if it's not, only the extent of if it is debatable. And it's being debated with the sciences in collusion with overt criminal enterprises as victims, but as victim predators, everyone. Overt criminal enterprises, private ones, intercampuses ones, database ones, interground of education, then only let realized nature of formal types of campuses, individually grouped and together, identity of negative value nature progression in relationship to this as nature, and demonstration of with negative value nature progressions acts and natures since semi-ancient times. It just reminds acts like predicate acts. These are organized crime terms. Criminal natures like criminal insidious natures. This is where and how American history, it's the proper treatment of each nation's history is a requirement for treatments of the law and of the nature of laws, not just laws nature, but laws nature's nature, and the value of that as a nature of volume. That's why we're fact treatment nature obligated as actual science that is true always, and not denying any exceptions, not even the slightest one. Because what is true always and as all exceptions is in demonstration to us, inherently, actively, progressively. And this is unceasingly gaining value. Trying to understand this, to be the nature of quality effect treatment nature. You not doing that personally is and then pretending they have rightful convictions. They don't. In other words, people have opinions that in other words, this is involved with the child abuse method that only let each age of fact treatment nature conceive and be taught to think by parting topics that are inseparable. And from and as their roles were very simple, only complex through the extent of how it juxtaposed all to roles, nature's needs, sensibilities in relationship to the value of the identity of the ground, which is ours, which are ours as a nature of volume that is positive or negative, and demonstrates. We know the rest of Earth has no criminal foreign influences. That's the only reason why humanity conceived to fact achieving nature sciences not as science by the identity the sciences share simultaneously. What they are a demonstration of simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly, the predicate being value to as the physical body of the law, as its identity, which is bigger than it. It's the identity the sciences share. This is in demonstration of the same thing, the same way as that way being simultaneously distinct, non-distinct. We'll examine this is what makes zero gravity. This is a bond that is the value of the nature of soft and is the bond of the nature of a hard grip and is the nature of a grip that is and or to be an unceasing value progression as a nature of volume, as a nature of temporary / lasting positive, which is simultaneously needed now per science to demonstrate the three trinities. The Trinity, how distinctly and non-distinctly from the way the Old Testament has it presented. This is also because the Old Testament and the Quran knew that people that came through sciences that were criminally foreign, in other words, as qualities of fact, human entertained to mark its positions, forced here, there, shared to keep nations individually grouped and together as quality of fact, human nature value as victims, but as victim predators, live progressions from each database. Live progression is tied to the value treatments, time treatments, in relationship to each identity of the ground, each person, family, sex. We are three natures of volume. Individuals a nature of volume. And this has the value of this nature being a nature that has nothing to do with physical sex. That's one of the reasons why there is physical sex manifest. Because which is also in other words a value because this is an increasing nature of volume, which is not that or that, but both and the species nature of volume distinctly and not distinctly at the same time, so we can see this invisible but still discernible identity the sciences share. The identity that inventions work or not in relationship to. Again, further positive or not in relationship to. So the beginning of the Old Testament, this is a ground to what is is like the value of criminal insidiousness nature, as say oil or candle wax holding the wick, so making the life of it last longer, temporary positive. See, but that's temporary positive, criminal insidiousness nature. And this is victims, this is where and how. For example, we're gonna come to Sense and Sensibilities when we have time with Ancient Game System with youtube.com/user/Romulus Wall. This is me, Anthony Wall, from YouTube and from ancientgaming-system.com. And this is all set up. Now we just need to coders and to be able to forward them. And for means to make an expanding online platform, which is Pantheism Games. Before we don't even need to wait to Pantheism is about this one identity that each sound is about. The 26 sounds of English are like an organ. Their nature of positive as a complete identity is simultaneously an unceasing semi-nature relationship to the person of the body of the organs, complete identity. What will only stay its only complete a complete identity is the identity of relationship to itself that is the cause to positive value nature progressions here, evolution really, or loss of it, and negative value nature progressions, leaf of hadiths. See, but this is in relationship to a conversation about positive per science, which is using that and how three semi-natures are temporary slash lasting positive, and in conjunction with five semi-natures of itself, which was value before Earth, the identity of value progression that generated it, distinctly and not distinctly, while it is also distinctly and not distinctly its own identity, while being Earth's value, and so our own, distinctly and non distinctly. And everything is in demonstration of this. And this is, for example, even though these three natures of volume, these five, simultaneously five natures of volume, just with the heartbeat of Allah came in. And with the five stages of history, the ancient, the semi-ancient, criminally foreign influenced, the modern religions, forced parted counters that already didn't have now control of internation sciences. But through the means that everyone had the same entity, but everyone was in a method. And as nature not understanding how to counter fact treatment nature-wise and blaming other things, others, and selves, which that was its method. It knew that that nature itself would continue to demonstrate negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, like predicate acts, criminal insidious nature, wrongdoers, wrongdoing. These are organized crime terms in relationship to criminal enterprises. They knew they would have so many criminal enterprises juxtaposed with ones legalized that the ancients revealed that if you try to really pretend stuff is legalized, nature is going to continue to demonstrate such. And they knew this took a method to keep everyone blaming other things, others, and selves for what continued internation sciences as a means to perpetually maintain effectively the states and areas of each nation, forcing no matter how powerful any leader gets to stay in collusion with them criminally foreign influenced states and areas. Delusions raw intersciences, all victim predators, mass opinionators offensively, as positive treatments, as sensibilities that can't sustain that and allow free speech with its simultaneously with its R/R simultaneously inherent active and progressive means, one-way redeems. Call through your teams. See, they put black in with the law as intercultural people. And this is new, this as the way it was going to exploit all these natures of criminal and seditious nature, juxtaposed. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police form. I'm not a criminal. I'm not military. Buck sings again, awake as tribe. The truthless native pure, the one that is true, and while being all exceptions not denied. Here many lie. All train, will train. To gain the gain of gains again, to gain. Be tribes. Be tribe. See, there's so many things we can do. It's all disbelief. You know how many? If we're going to use the campus Marcias for this, and we're going to the species beggar. I'm going to be the species beggar because I know that if we agree to it, nations together too, use pantheism. This is science that does not deny modern religions. So then we come to modern religions, and even counters where the culture, each culture is a victim. Not by accident, only capable of blaming other things, others, and selves, because and valuing that having only been realized. This is a fact treatment nature racket to keep us from understanding the three natures of culture and the value of that. We are valued nature inside values nature. And that is where and how each value is in demonstration of. That's why there are our values that are temporary / lasting. Once the bond goes, that's it. But that this is about the nature of positives. Now you don't have to believe in the extent of this. You can believe that life ends right there. But then what about everyone left behind? So in other words, our rights are dependent upon each other's. Fact, treatment, nature. In other words, you don't have the opinion. You don't have the right to the opinion, not just about the simple thing, like the color. Like in other words, you're a liar. You're with delusions. You're with criminal foreign influences. No, sourced not by one modern nation. This is a fact treatment nature racket that knew each modern nation would have to have each person, each group / dash sex, and the species volume, everyone would have to blame the real causes for negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures valued as pseudo positive upon them, sustained multi front, as the only ones letting timeless positive preservation of it through this criminally foreign influence. Now we see this is what needs to keep everyone fact treatment nature tortured, quality of fact treatment nature trying to counter this that we all need to counter by calling it by going against prejudice. You think that is going to counter recorded originally and still all private, interbranch, military, all these nations shared what you can't defend and defend ourselves at once, not by accident. American history starts with where and how George Washington and the French general were our recorded fact treatment nature slaves. Better off than their Uncle Toms. And in other words, a slave, a tortured person that had no right to be anything else other. I mean, no means to do it or be hurt and killed. So in other words, in fact, I bring up that phrase Uncle Tom because it came from Harriet Beecher Stowe. And there's a Harriet Beecher Stowe house in Hartford. And this comes to our founding where George Washington and the French general had to come and meet to semi-counter store where they left overt slavery with color in the North and here in Connecticut and Hartford and Wethersfield right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Had to do it and leave it because they didn't have the strength. There were slave roles to an organized crime method that forced everyone to be roles with pseudo positive acting as natures of theater as criminal insidiousness nature. And in a crime method that was using the only realized experts on the law, used as breaching screens, breaching tools and weapons, and misprising fake sides of correlation nature, which is again Trinity, which is again also with two other semi-natures of value, one before and after a temporary positive, not even debatable, but with lies or delusions because we're still here and people are still going to be here when we're gone. Unless we stay like this and then the Earth's simultaneously distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest of nature with the phenomenon of as the means to distinctly and non-distinctly have all nature teaching the course of how to make more positive here, more positive forever nature that is also positive unto itself, and or forces it away from here, lethal IDs, till we come again to the third nature of grip, soft, hard, and what's greater than reliefs. It just keeps filling. But that's this identity of perfect value progression, where it has and how its complete identity stays that onto all parts of itself, even the smallest part. There's an order to the finite, the smallest part of your body. I'm not a doctor. This is in relationship to the organized crime that originally motivated doctors not just to the realized like money and interest like that, overt criminal enterprises, not just with interests like that. These motivated people to roles like that for a crime method that juxtaposed everyone to motivations, natures, needs, and roles as misprision. In other words, a fact treatment nature styles valued they knew that would cause negative value nature progressions, acts in nature valued blamed on other causes, things themselves. So this would motivate them appreciating already facilitated prisoning systems, roles with the whipping training to roles with slavery, with having it keep blamed on other things, selves and interest. That's the real reason that they didn't let they made it illegal to be teaching anybody who had dark skin to read. In other words, you're a slave because you're not allowed to teach anyone, no matter who you are. So you're a slave. You're forced to a cultivated polarity role, or you're hurt and tortured. And see, if you entertain positive and pretend pseudo positive insidiously and pretend to be against um, prejudice, then you can't demonstrate this. You can't demonstrate how that was wanted then and needed then to keep needed now to keep states and area criminally foreign influence and valuing having had been and keeping it on the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts in nature, other things, others themselves. Predicate acts associated with the Trade Center attack context, with child offenders, with the crime method effectively that motivated victim predator parties to entertain things like Me Too movements with Congress. Doing that to pretend, in other words, because this is a method that has their natures, same thing they did with shock and awe. Victim reactions to what the coalition, in other words, that was here as if roles as tools here, there, slave nations valuing it. Because when they're in value nature system, other as fact treatment nature going in relationship to market positions, value nature system positions, then not by accident valuing that you can't defend yourself from what unless you from what values and needs to stay valued. No protraction of correlation natures simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means when we redeems. So they make it, who's wealthy, who's not. That's mixed in with what is undercover or not. And we have hundreds of nations sick together with plain clothes, see the suits and ties. That's in relationships to be able to make sensibilities duck here and there, value it. Fake sides. So we have Russians against Russians, American against Americans, with all kind of criminal uses. Other nations against their own, same time, because they have the shared criminal uses of the identity of the ground, of the identity of value that each age of fact treatment nature is. On off locations of shared policing, like malls internations, like campuses internation, like their roles with intercampuses of each age, sustained connections realized, not realized because it's off the ropes, but known to like whoever knows the experts. But then there's off the records to that too. In other words, originally still how they were just overtly criminally foreign influence, not fact treatment nature, free speech. Overtly offensive evidence reception predators, identity theft rackets, valuing natures, recorded. Everyone. This is what forgiveness is about. It's about how, in other words, also evidence reception. In other words, what they call proper evidence reception, as trained to be, and in relationship to problems in the past, not by accident, is with policies and stuff that are all abridged Constitution. But this is not letting everyone doesn't care when someone's trying to, even though we have recorded online. That's why they have the interbranch police and families associated military. They're maintained already originally still criminally foreign influence victims, but victim predators. That's why, of course it's going to be, that's why presidents don't know how to speak for the impositions upon the police. That's how they don't know how to speak about them. That's how the judges, the courts don't know how to speak about the impositions upon upon them. No one listening to them, and then they have to lie when that's demonstrated because they're all knaves together through other method of organized crime. There's a whole bunch of other methods of lying and of getting away with it and of sequence shifts valuing natures. And this is important because inherent to sequence is the complete value of the forever nature that is gained as the value of the semi-natures that are gaining the value, like all the semi-natures of our body, other cells of our body, every complete identity has a semi-nature relationship to our complete identity simultaneously. And our complete identity has a semi-nature relationship to what is a little bit valued before and beyond how each individual group dash sex and species nature or volume is bonded. As in other words, simultaneously three and simultaneously five invisible but connected, bonded semi-natures of and as one value that gains perfect value progression through and as the heartbeat of Allah, concentrated the value of the three natures of positive as what was its complete identity and what it could not be, and what could be was positive, what could make that more. And this is what perfect value progression. So that Trinity concentrated on that as the three natures are positive to itself. See how like our body is negative value nature, except for the phenomena of how the value of our nature is coming through it, which is also a Trinity, and which is also a Trinity bonded as identity nature. So it's physics, metaphysics, and identity nature. And this is what English is revealed to teach about identity nature. This is why, for example, this is all things at once are revealed to teach this. I watched a YouTube video. I have to try to find it. In the end, the guy says nonsense about what really causes positive and negative in a battery. I mean, in a magnet. If you take two rectangular pieces of steel and you charge them, you take the positive, the two sides of a battery, a car battery, say, and you touch it to them, you're gonna spark. I don't know, you get hurt. Don't do that. But then the energy goes into that steel, becomes a magnet. If you have two of them, you could do the experiment and you could see that they bond to each other one way and they push apart the other way. What causes this is an identity that is the perfect value progression, since before that identity being discussed was value, and while it is being value, and as the value of it further, positive or negative, in relationship to its identity, of relationship to itself. which is obligations by our fact treatment nature, our sequence treatment nature quality, that are being denied. And it's being denied by offensive theories about other, people say, people, and this is especially with psychology, because this is a fact treatment nature. If you ask to report recorded child abuses, the police forms will forge names, switch sequences, and fake things recorded into databases for how they were motivated to this, because how they were. These are people, crimes with Russians against Russians, like with associated with a Bruta family, and Americans against Americans, and with another woman who said she was Russian. She repeated it. I don't have had a conversation with her. I was never, I never didn't. She was already recorded confessing and demonstrating involved with Leahy family and Iowa family and former and standing mayors involved criminally with child offenders, with crime methods, interfamily members. No, I said things. I also noted online. I said things that weren't true about my family, because these are crime methods where courts and where police forms together have been forging names, switching names through time, using databases criminally, attaching me to fake conversations with others. There are women in a Leahy family and in a Lombardo family, other families that pretended I yelled at women in their family and others' family. In other words, they pretended I had conversations with them that through time. They had my back. With and as crimes with drugs, with courts, as formal drug crimes, as the kinds that the doctors have access to, with the ones with badges too, and military with them also criminally, and also with overt gangs drugs and their crimes with illusions, with areas, with evidence perception, crimes in cases, those illusions, criminal uses of time, too fast, too slow, where they're pretending not to realize they're making mistakes. They're valuing the real causes of the streams into courts each day, all the hurt that's tied to that, all the hurt that's really keeping them, what's really limiting education's means inherently, actively, progressively, and worse than that. These are involved with torture that the Constitution surface was about. Marbury versus Madison is about how real justice must satisfy all just appearances of real justice. And that's quoting my father. I believe that's what it says, though. It was my father's accomplished pro se litigant. He won a NLRB case against federal criminals that a Leahy family is also criminally involved with forging names, drug crimes with them, further crimes with campuses, and with various natures of courts criminally involved with them. There are Delaferro family that I did have not conversation with. They sought me out to make confessions, and then from then the time you're going to be like in a position where you can't respond without these are people like there's a whole bunch of Delaferro brothers that are involved with a probate judge in their family. And there are all kinds of natures of drug crimes. These are people criminally involved with like fire department campuses, database campuses, CCSU through time, with identity theft clicks. And there's a Joshua Julian also. I never had anything to do with him. He's recorded, confessed, involved with harassing little girls and little boys and coaching their sensibilities with the parents of the interbranch and the avert criminal enterprises associated with him and with his friends, with houses in my area, with child offenders proven but further recorded, and their roles associated with a Dillon family, with an Anna Dillon, a Kevin Dillon, a Sean Dillon, and with a Kurt family, and with like DeMorals, and with a bunch of people with crimes when I was in middle school with databases. See, now this was facilitated to them with the courts that were criminally using each of the campus I went to with the database. The teachers try to help the kids because they know that the people people were being influencing them from off campuses to crimes that, in other words, to lie with they're pretending other people are liars by first forcing the interbranch family members to confess, like a Bryant family and a Gold family, recorded confessed to involved crimes with drugs, with each age of fact nature, with overt criminal enterprises, with verbal federal crimes with them, illusion stacking with areas, evidence reception crimes, with various natures of courts criminally involved, various natures of police forms criminally involved with them, lobbyists criminally involved with them through time, because these are people that seek you out when you're little, and they're influencing the sensibilities of the principles they recorded through time, coached to prove it and to further recorded forced child defender rules because of the interfamily members associated with the campuses and with other nations' families, and also facilitating this. Where like they have like a there are also people with a Casper family and with a D Simone family that are also recorded and confessed involved with like Dr. Dingleberry, Dr. Dewberry, with forging names crimes, with crimes with a Leahy family, with crimes of various natures of courts and various natures of judges with those courts standing and retired, and their family members at once through time sustained. And then that was their crime acts roles with Connecticut interbranch in the Trade Center attack context. So this is what I'm begging someone for help with for the New York game too. The ancient gaming system. We'll I'll show you how we'll monetize this and make New York game slash S and with expanding things too, because Native Americans too need help because we're from a tactically denatured relationship to nature, like and they don't know how to litigate because there are already criminally foreign influence statutes originally and still maintain value. This is how our nations are exploited. Again, everyone maintains per a method, blaming other things, others, themselves for the real causes of negative value, nature, progressions, acts, and natures, for the real causes of offensive, pretended integrity, pretended patriotism that is non existent. That's why it is valuing having been valued and still valued. Blind sacrifice that is used for fact cheaping nature rackets, originally and still, for the identity thefts, not just of our founders, but of the substance of American history. So I want to show you this picture. It says from a book called This is Connecticut. Connecticut Hall at Yale was built in 1752. Nathan Hale roomed there while at college. Now, this is this is a quality of imposition, this method of fact treatment of organized crime, this breaching method using human fact treatment nature that slavery was as part of, that our obligations were to have understood, encountered, originally and still. See, this can't be afforded through means that our value nature systems glorified other than positive. In other words, we have treatments of positive that are fake sides of correlation nature, fake middles with physical delusions, with people with conspiracy theories offensively pretending others are. And because what does that do? What does that do? In other words, they're starting fights as people that are pretending they're about sensibilities that are honesty. They're about integrity. They're using policies that relied upon experts that are originally and still criminally foreign influence, delusions wrought, victims, but victim predators that are directors. See, you guys don't even know, you guys never sat in a courtroom with a defendant director of the FBI. You never sat in a courtroom with them already recorded, involved with worse than the extortion of you before that. Apart from your family member who had to make the as a pro se litigant had to sue, you know, the defendant, former director of the FBI, and his roles with Thaddeus Skabowski involved with a whole bunch of with Mendez brothers and with Mulcahy girls that I never had a conversation with, involved with the corner of Fox CT, with buildings in Hartford, also with the Charlie Bowes, and with the Allegro's Cafe, and with a Fazina family, and a Faenza family, and a Fazina family, associated crimes with on off the judicial branch offices, and with houses next to it, business in the area like Weathersfield Pizza, and with a Stephen Stockwell, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with wire crimes with them, identity theft crimes, sequence shifts with them. I never met or saw what even knew what she looked like when she was in high school with Maria Fazina. In other words, they time had people make confessions to me for sequence shift for a whole bunch of people tied to her area that I barely know, and facilitated the crimes with the two, a standing and a long ago police chief associated with the same house, with a whole bunch of other departments, intercity crime acts with databases, and in cases proven sequence shift, proven after, but it had been before the Trade Center attack. There had been post-dated documents affected from inside the Ninth Circuit, and then showing in the Trade Center attack to the panel of judges right before the attack, as if they'd been the papers had been handed in late, but it had been later proven that my father had handed them in on time. And then that led up to the 2006 case I was present for in district court in Connecticut. In other words, with co-defendants of his, one of them had a daughter in my grade, and the other ones had like a bunch of people in my grade and area involved with them with identity thefts that I had nothing to do with, but they pretended because they were tied to my area that I knew them. In years I hadn't saw them at all. I hadn't seen them at all. In other words, because this is also the one involved with the police chiefs and the various natures of retired and standing police involved with the child offenders, the new and past neighbors between me and them. In the house behind them, one with on a sex offender with his brother and mother, further involved with Stop and Shop, with a former with all kinds of people, with police forms associated foreign and domestic, and people associated intercampuses criminally involved. This was since before DACA. We have fake justice in each nation's sick individually, grouped a whole bunch of them sick together. We have to understand that. We have to let free speech. Law must allow. Fake branches bow, then fall. Now build the wall. Value W. Letter W. Value W is the value, the capital value, is the value of two natures of temporary / lasting positive or a lasting negative. They're automatically temporary positive. But see, we're in value nature systems where that nature of positive is criminal insidiousness nature. So it can't pretend, it must pretend it's science, but it has to hurt free speech with as real science, as correlation natures, trinities, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. One way redeems. Wow. Yes, yes.